to mask or not to mask? That's the question we're expecting an answer to when it comes to California's school kids. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Carlo Cicchetto.
Happy Friday. I'm Marcella Lee. Governor Newsom is set to make an announcement about the state's mask mandate for students on Monday. But as CBS 8's Kirsten Holmes tells us, what should happen next is still up for debate.
California is getting ready to say goodbye to that indoor mask mandate on February 15th. But what does this mean for school kids? We talked to some who are for getting rid of the mask mandate in schools and those who are against it.
The state of emergency is over. Let's end COVID-related restrictions.
David Miyashiro is the superintendent of El Cajon School District. He says it's time to lift the mask mandate for California school kids. David says the change in guidelines and restrictions have hit his students, parents, and teachers hard, and it's time to go back to normal.
It's been a challenging time, but I think rekindling our relationships with each other, returning to a place where we don't judge people by their decisions to wear masks or not to, or to get a vaccine or not to be inclusive of everybody is really important at this point.
Richard Barrera, the trustee of San Diego Unified School Board, disagrees.
We listen to everybody's opinions, but at the end of the day, the opinions that are strongest for us are the opinions of, health and science experts.
Richard says instead of an end to the mask mandate for school kids, we should be looking for something else from the governor's announcement.
Beginning of a conversation to what some people call off-ramps, to masking. In other words, if you hit certain criteria in terms of percentage of students who are vaccinated, where case rates are, that you might start to see, a relaxing of the indoor mask mandate.
Dr. Davey Smith at UC San Diego says it's time to start the conversations about how we make the turn from restrictions depending on vaccination and infection rates.
The tremendous drop in cases is what we have been projecting for a while to happen around this time with Omicron. We saw a great surge because it's a super infectious virus, and now we're seeing case numbers go down. We have to make those decisions on when to, release the brake pedal, right? It's going to be the new normal that we're going to have public health agencies say, hey, it's time now for us to put our masks on, and it's now time we can let our masks go.
And Dr. Smith says masks work.
And we know that they work because last year we didn't have any flu cases because everybody was quarantined in masks. So data shows that for respiratory viruses like flu and also COVID-19, that masks have an effect.
It is another hot and dry day out there, and not only is it Super Bowl weekend, it may be a super good beach weekend.
But these conditions, they're also keeping fire crews on high alert. Chief Meteorologist Carlene Chavis is here early with a look at what's happening outside right now, Carlene, and boy, it's warm.
Yeah, today was definitely a warm one. We're getting away from those temperatures as we do have the 60s and 70s west of the mountains. But for tomorrow, we're locked right into that heat yet again. Talking about 90 degrees for Fallbrook also. Good beach day. We'll have those 80s right along the coast, as well as 78 degrees for Del Mar. You're looking at 89 for El Cajon. Still holding on to the heat advisory. That's going to take us all the way until Sunday, and that's with daytime highs, widespread 80s, still talking about being 15 to 25 degrees above seasonal, and then also at upwards of 90s for highs. The heat advisory plus the wind advisory are going to be in effect. Now, this wind advisory will start later on tonight, and that will take us all the way through Saturday for 1 p.m. So we're talking about the return of Santa Ana winds, and that's going to bring those strong gusts up to about 50 miles per hour, strongest right along the foothills, and that's exactly where our elevated fire weather concerns are going to be for the weekend. You're seeing that by the afternoon hour on Saturday around 2:30, still lingering into the morning hours for Sunday before everything calms down with those Santa Ana winds by Sunday evening. And then we're gearing up for onshore flow and even a chance for showers. So all those details are coming up. Marcella.
All right, Carlene, thank you. A man is in custody tonight after a police chase ended in El Cajon a little more than an hour ago. We're told it began in La Mesa with the driver speeding away from police, driving at dangerous speeds on Interstate 8 and along busy city streets into El Cajon. Now, eventually, the driver did pull over into an apartment complex. You watched it live here on the news. This is happening on North Mollison Avenue, and then he ran off. But as you can see right there, police found him inside one of the apartments and arrested him, put him in handcuffs, took him away. They tell us they did recover a gun from his car. Another car was hit during the chase, but fortunately, no one was hurt. At this point, we don't know why the chase began.
For weeks now, we've been working to get answers for you about high SDG&E bills. A lot of you are frustrated and want to know what your options are when it comes to different pricing plans.
In our amped up coverage tonight, CBS 8's Shannon Handy explains what those plans are and how they could save you money.
The frustration over high SDG&E bills has left many people asking what can be done to lower the costs.
Why is my bill so high?
I'm not using it any differently.
CBS 8 has gone to SDG&E several times with those concerns. The utility company maintains the higher rates are the result of a combination of factors, including a natural gas shortage, infrastructure projects, and require programs such as the state's wildfire insurance fund we all need to pay for. SDG&E advises people to take a look at the plan they're under and research others that may be a better fit, saying it could save you money. There are 3 time-of-use plans which charge different amounts depending on when you use energy. All SDG&E residential customers to fall into the time-of-use DR1 plan. Here's a breakdown. It has 3 time periods. On weekdays and weekends during peak hours, which are 4 to 9 p.m., electricity will be the most expensive at 44 cents per kilowatt hour. Once you go 130% over your baseline, which is dependent on where you live, it's 55 cents per kilowatt hour. But if you only use energy during off-peak hours, which are 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. to 12 a.m. on weekdays, and 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. as well as 9 p.m. to 12 a.m. on weekends, those rates drop to 38 cents if you stay under the baseline allotment and 48 cents if you go over. Anything outside those hours is considered super off-peak and is 2 cents cheaper. The DR2 pricing plan has 2 time periods. It doesn't differentiate between weekdays and weekends and doesn't have super off-peak hours. Every day during peak hours between 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. is the same price as Plan 1, 44 cents under your baseline allotment versus 55 cents if you go over. During off-peak hours, the rates drop to 37 cents and 47 cents. Finally, there's the DRP plan, which has 3 time periods. It has the exact same peak and off-peak hours as Plan 1, with pricing a penny off in certain areas, but there's one major difference. Anytime there's a reduce your use event where SDG&E asks you to conserve energy, you're charged $1.16 per kilowatt hour. The standard plan is another option which charges the same no matter when you use energy, 39 cents per kilowatt hour under your baseline allotment and 49 cents over. Once you choose a plan, you can add to it the level pay program. SDG&E will average the dollar amount on your last 12 energy bills or less if you haven't been a customer for that long. You're then billed that same average amount for the first 3 months, even if your energy use varies. After that, your payment amount is adjusted once every 3 months based upon your actual energy use. The idea is to allow people to avoid spikes so they can budget more easily.
You can sign up for that level pay program whenever you choose. As for those time of use plans, you can opt in at any point, but once you do, you're locked in for a year unless you have a qualifying event. For example, if you drive an electric vehicle, you're eligible for different programs. Also, there are discount plans for low-income customers as well as those who have medical devices in their home which use a lot of energy.
Thank you, Shannon. For more information on all the plans Shannon mentioned, you can go to our website, cbs8.com, and click on the link to this story. New COVID cases keep dropping in San Diego. County health officials reported just under 1,300 new infections today. State data shows hospitalizations dropped to 837, but the number of patients in intensive care did increase by a dozen to 171. 23 more deaths were reported. That brings the total there to 4,894.
A COVID vaccine for children under the age of 5 has been delayed by several months.
The FDA announced it was postponing its meeting to discuss Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine application for kids under 5. The FDA advisory panel will review more data before making a decision. Meantime, in New York, as many as 3,000 public employees, including government workers, police officers, and firefighters, are expected to lose their jobs for failing to get at least 2 doses of a COVID-19 vaccine. Mayor Eric Adams isn't backing down.
It's not about termination, it's about vaccination. We want people to be vaccinated. I don't want to see the city close down again.
The thousands of workers potentially facing termination make up less than 1%, though, of city employees.
Tonight, the U.S. is warning that a Russian invasion of Ukraine could be imminent, possibly within the next 5 days.
The Biden administration is now telling American citizens in the country to leave now because they will not be rescued if Russian forces cross the border. Natalie Brand has details from the White House.
National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan repeated an urgent warning from the president for Americans to get out of Ukraine immediately.
The risk is now high enough and the threat is immediate enough that prudence demands that it is the time to leave now.
Sullivan says intelligence reveals Russia has now amassed all the forces it needs to start a major military action against Ukraine if Russian President Vladimir Putin decides to move forward.
We can't pinpoint the day at this point, and we can't pinpoint the hour, but what we can say is that there is a credible prospect that a Russian military action would take place even before the end of the Olympics.
The president told NBC News' Lester Holt that he will not send U.S. troops into Ukraine to rescue Americans if Russia invades.
We're dealing with one of the largest armies in the world. This is a very different situation, and things could go crazy quickly.
Earlier Friday, the president spoke to world leaders and NATO allies via video conference. The White House and NATO says they are united and prepared for any scenario.
What we have communicated to our allies and partners, all 30 allies in NATO, plus a range of other partners, our latest intelligence information, and it does not include a statement that Vladimir Putin has definitively given an order to proceed with the invasion.
Russia announced no-go zones prohibiting aircraft and fishing boats in parts of the Black Sea surrounding Ukraine. Russia says the restrictions are in place for military exercises next week.
From the north, from the east, the Russians are in a position to be able to mount a major military action in Ukraine any day now.
While the Biden administration says it will not send U.S. troops to fight in Ukraine, it's beefing up the defenses of nearby NATO countries. A striker group of nearly 1,000 U.S. soldiers arrived in Romania Friday. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
A White House official says President Biden and Russian President Vladimir Putin will speak tomorrow. The U.S. Air Force is deploying an F-16 squadron to Romania to enhance the security of the NATO country.